The Dershow.
We live in the age not only of biased media like CNN and MSNBC, but we also live in the internet age. So there's no such thing as a false story in the internet. Just today, I got on the internet, I got emails and other things saying kill all the Jews. Dershowitz is this, that. He's a Nazi. He's a pedophile. He's all of that. I get that. And people look at it, and some people believe it. Most people know it's not worth the paper that it isn't written on because it's on the internet. But TikTok and all the other platforms, X, they can say almost anything. As you know, X, particularly Elon Musk, has tried to create a forum without undue censorship. Of course, that's impossible because you can't just allow every conceivable accusation against innocent people to just go unanswered. So, we live in a cruel world, but we ought to err always on the side of revealing the information, not withholding it. Certainly, when you withhold information, that's when conspiracy theories come about. If you disclose fully all the information right at the beginning, it's much harder to concoct a conspiracy theory. So I've always been an advocate of when in doubt, let it out. There are obviously things that can't be revealed. The medical histories of people, lawyer-client privileges. I've waived all mine, even medical. I've waived everything. Whatever you want relating to Epstein, put it out there because I know nothing would hurt me. Nothing would affect me in a negative way because I know what the truth is. So I'm happy to have everything out there. There are certain people who don't. I mean, people settle cases not because they're guilty of the charge that they're accused of, but often they settle cases because although they're innocent of the charge they're accused of, they have other things in their background. That may be true of Prince Andrew. We don't know. I mean, he was called, this is not my term, this is a media term, he was called Randy Andy. He had been separated from his wife and lived a life that he probably wouldn't want, his mother, who was then alive, wouldn't want to have disclosed. On the other hand, I had no problem with that. I welcomed a deposition because I've never done anything in that area that I'm ashamed of. And so anybody want to discuss my romantic life, fine, go ahead, and then you'll be bored. But that's not true of everybody. And I always think what a weird thing it is that, I've been so faithful to my wife and I don't flirt and I don't do anything like that. And yet I'm the one who's accused. And I know people who just have affairs on a weekly basis and have mistresses all over and everything. And, they never get accused. But so people tell me all the time, you got to be so careful. No, yes, you do. But I was so careful and yet I was accused. But fortunately, because I was so careful, I was able to disprove the allegations. And so I'm very happy with the state of the record now, and I really would prefer not to talk about it anymore. And I wasn't planning to talk about it anymore, but then this story broke, and they came up with a videotape of me back in March, I think, on the Sean Spicer show. Nobody was talking about Epstein then, and in which I said there was no client list. Then they put that on, and it went viral, and everybody was saying, "Oh my God, oh my God!" And so I today wrote an op-ed in the New York Times. I have a twofer today. I think it's the first time in my life I've had two op-eds in prominent newspapers on the same day. Today, tonight, and tomorrow's print newspapers. I have an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal about the Epstein case, and I have an op-ed in the New York Post about why Israel is not committing genocide. What happened is that there was an op-ed in the New York Times by a self-proclaimed genocide expert. He's not an expert in genocide at all. He's not an expert in law. He's not an expert, as far as I know, in anything. He's a very, very biased anti-Israel guy who has some connections in the past with Israel. And he said, I know genocide when I see it. And Israel's committing genocide. He didn't say that I know genocide when I see it. And Hamas is trying to commit genocide against Jewish civilians. He didn't say that, but he said, I saw it in Israel. So I wrote a response to it, an op-ed, defining what genocide really means as a matter of law. And I've been teaching about this for many, many years. And so I've had two op-eds in one day about very, very different subjects. And, I'm an eclectic writer, and I write about what interests me. And so genocide and Jeffrey Epstein all in one day. And so I'm hoping that the issue subsides. One of my best friends, who I've known since I'm 5 years old, wrote to me and said, "Oh, you shouldn't have done the op-ed thing. It just raises the whole Epstein thing again." Well, I'm not unhappy about that. I'm not trying to duck any issues. Some of the people who were accused just remained silent, and it mostly went away. For example, George Mitchell, the former former secretary of everything, and former senator, he just never commented on it, and the newspapers just didn't pick it up. But that's not my style. My style is always to answer and respond. I don't want the story to go away. I want the truth to come out. And so to get the truth out, you have to be somewhat proactive. And so that's what I am. That's what I've done. I'm not going to say anything negative about anybody. I'm just trying to put the case in context and argue about what's fair to disclose, what's fair not to disclose, and what in fact has happened, so I can set the record straight, because I do have an insider perspective on the case. So read my op-ed in today's Wall Street Journal, tonight's Wall Street Journal, in the newspaper tomorrow, and read my op-ed tonight in the New York Post, and that will also be in the newspaper tomorrow.